嗨，大家好，我是古阿沃。今天我要用30分钟来教完你 UCCN1213的 Lab2。
So first thing, normally you want to see what is the file that you have. Okay, so you use the command ls, it will show you all the file that's currently in this current directory. So the first difference between a Windows and Linux is in Windows you have folders. Okay, so many folders, just like what you see here, all these folders here. But in Linux it's different. We call this a directory, which is why you always see this word dir, which stands for directory. It's the same thing as a folder. Okay, so normally on Windows we will just use mouse to click, but right now in Linux you want to use command. So a few tricks here. When you do ls-l, which means you want to specify an options, a -l will allow you to see them in a list format like this. Actually, personally, I like this more because it is clearer. And then I also can see the permission of this file. Okay. Now, what about hidden folder? Sometimes people like to hide some file. I don't know lah. I think most of the guy here know what I mean. Because your friend might want to borrow your PC to do something, and there is a lot of things that I cannot let my friends see. So you want to hide the file, correct or not? So after you hide the file, on Linux, how do you see all the hidden file? You use ls-a command. This one will show you all the hidden files. So you see all these things here, desktop, all these things are still here, but I have so many things that I don't see earlier because all these are hidden files. So if you want to do it in a list format, then just do ls-la. And then you will see all the hidden files in the list format. And that is how I want to show all the files and folders that I have on my Linux machine. Now, next one here, and we have talked about this pwd for print working directory. It shows me I'm in the root. If you do who am I? So for example, if you have more than one user, which is normally the case, because a lot of server is using Linux because free ma. And then server is what? Server is always hosting many services. One like now I have 21 students here. All of you have your own student account, student ID. So on a server, you have to maintain different user account. And if I want to change user, then you have to use the command su or something. Now that is out of the scope today. But who am I will be the command that you use to know you are logged in as who. So let's say I want to go to a Brian account. I will use su Brian. You see if I do a who am I am Brian right now. Okay. Now if I do a su and then I go to, just now I create Andrew Paul. So who am I? I'm Andrew. And this command is important so that I know who am I logged in as, what user at the moment. Now next one, cd, change directory. Now this is very important. Just as you can use mouse to go to double click on the folder to go to that folder, you can also use the cd command to go to another folder. So let's say right now I'm looking at all this folder here, and I want to go to my document folder. You just use the command cd followed by the name of the next directory that you want to go to. So over here I have cd documents, then I will go inside my document folder, which is something like this. If I want to visualize this, okay, now this is different because right now it's like on Linux. But let's say I have a window, then I double click on my document. Okay, so this is what I have just done. I go inside to that directory. So of course, if you want to go back up, okay, before that, you do a pwd, then you will see now you are in the documents folder. Okay, now using what we have just learned, you can also see what do you have in my documents. If I do a ls-l, you will see, oh, right now this folder is empty. There's nothing inside here yet. Okay, now the next thing you want to try is you can do a cd double dot, which will bring you go back to one folder earlier. Go to the previous folder. cd dot dot, then you do a pwd, then you see now I go back to the root. I can cd dot dot go up even further, keep going up. Now you start to see something weird like, hey, what is all this thing? Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to go up from my user account to the system. So try to think of it as this. These one are the folder for the system. Normally, we don't want to mess with all these things. So all the user folder will be here. We call this home. Okay, homecoming, which is why if you want to know your folder, you cd to home, uls, you will see all the folder here. If you do a ls-l, you should see all the folders that you have here. But let's say if you want to make a new one, the command you use is mkdir, which stands for you make a new directory and then the name of the folder. So now let's say I create a new folder named Lab2, just like that. Then you check. Now this is your new folder here. Okay. And yeah, if you want to remove the folder, you just use the command rmdir followed by the folder that you don't want it anymore. You want to delete it. Then you just do rmdir and you see now the Lab2 folder is gone. That's how I do it. Okay. Now let's say if I create a folder named Lab2 and I want to create a text file inside. So for example, I go inside Lab2. Just to show you I'm in Lab2, you see right now I'm in the correct folder, Lab2. Now I want to create a text file. Say maybe an example, I want to create free iPhone 12. This is how you do phishing attack. If you do this, then people might click on it. So touch, and then I have a new text file here. Can you see that? So I just use a command touch followed by the file name. That is how we create a file on Linux. Now, if I go back up one folder, okay, so this is all the folders that I have, and I want to delete this folder right now. You see, I will get an error message because Linux won't allow us to delete any folder with a file still inside. Okay, and this is not a bug. This is a security feature because you don't want to be accidentally remove the whole thing that contain all the useful thing, all the important data. So for you to remove a folder that you have something inside, but for lazy people like me, I don't want to go inside and remove all the files one by one. You use the rm, which stands for remove -r-f followed by the folder name. So the only difference here, as you can see, is I added two flags -r and -f, which will tell Linux to forcefully remove the folder. And if you do that, you see now, although there are things inside the folder, they will still be removed. The challenge that you have today is you want to create a subdirectory based on your name. For example, KC here. So later KC will have to create a folder named KC, but it's not create anywhere you like. You have to create it here under home student. Okay. Then after you create, you have to use a command to print the path, to show all the path. So question one, you got two things to do. First thing is to create a new folder, but you have to create it in this path, home student. The second thing is after you have created, you have to show us the full path. The next thing is you want to create some files in the subdirectory that you just created, which means that your folder just make some file. It can be text file, it can be PDF, it could be anything. Just find a way to make a file, and then you want to show us all the file that you make using command. Of course, no mouse allowed. Okay, so the way you create is you want to make sure you go to the right folder. So that means the first challenge is we have to find how to get here. Okay, now actually, in fact, if you do the cd double dot, so when you turn on a terminal, the first place you will be in is here. But actually, you can go even up one, you know. So let me show you an example. If I do a cd.ls, you can see this is the home folder. This is where we put all the user account. Right now, if I cd to home, I do a ls, there's only one account, which is the root user, because we don't have other user. For the lab answer, when you first get inside the command prompt, you will be here. Okay, you want to do a cd dot dot. You see, first thing is I want to go inside here. So I cd home. Here I already have one folder named root. I want to have a new folder named student. So mkdir student ls, now you have a new student folder, which is exactly what the question wants, home/student. Okay. Okay, I can even show you this. If I go inside to the student folder, I do a pwd, you will get to see that you are actually in the right place. Almost done. Okay, now next thing you want to do is you want to create a new subdirectory with your own name. This is what I'll do. I go inside home/student, I will create another folder with my name, say RO. And then you do a ls, you should see the folder is already created. So if I want to really see the full path, and of course the first thing I have to do is to go into the new folder that I've just created, and I do a pwd, you can see that now under the home folder, which is where you have all the users, now I have a new folder for students, so all the students will be saved here, and the first student that registered this method is me, Awo. That is how I create the folder. All right. Okay, now this one, create some files. So I go here, make sure you are in the right place lah. Do a pwd, because you want to be creating file in your own folder. You don't want to make it into someone else's folder. So create file is very simple. Use the touch command. Create any file because the instruction is not clear. So in fact, you can create anything. Something like lab2 is too easy.pdf. That's how you create a file. And then to list it, remember you use the ls command. And if you want to show it just like that, ls, then it will show you like in the tiles format. If you do ls-l, then it will list it out. Of course, over here, it is not clear to you because we only have one file. So either way will work. When you look at the permissions on Linux, you will see that they will be, okay, I think I should use a notepad. There are three types of user here. Okay, so the three operations that you can do on Linux is read. So I call this R, write is W, and execute is X. Okay, and on Linux, you actually have three types of category. So the first type, we call this a user. And then the second type is called a group. And then the last is called other. Three category. And then each of the category here will have their own permission setting for read, write, and execute. User will have, you have three permission setting. And then for the group, you also have the same read, write, access. And then for other, you also have read, write, access. So this on Linux, the way it works is it is like a toggle, 1 and 0. So if you want to have read permissions, then you put 1. If you don't want him to be able to read, you set to 0. So it's 1 0 1 0. Like you turn on or turn off the switch lah. Okay. So for example, if I have a case like this, so the example here is I want to set user to be able to read and write and execute. I want to set the group to be able to only read and write. And then I want to set the other to only read. So you have to know this one is read, write, access, read, write, access, read, write, and access. Okay. So first one, user is read, write, execute. So here I will put 1. For write is 1, execute is 1. Okay. Now for group, read and write. So read is 1, can read, can write, cannot execute. So here is 0. Okay. Now for other, you can read, you cannot write, you cannot execute. So it's 1 0 0. When you write the command here, you will be using this command called chmod, followed by 3 decimal number. So you see, it takes the input of decimal, meaning that I cannot write 1 1 1 1 0 1 0 0. It doesn't understand. You're supposed to write this one, the decimal value of this one. Okay. And if you know me, you know I like to use online calculator. 111 is of course 7. So you know this is a 7. And then 110 is 6. So the first one is for the user, second one is for the group. And the last one here, 100, 100 will get 4. So this one is for other. And that's how I get chmod 764. And that is the permission setting. Now the last thing left is the file name. So this permission setting apply to what file? So for example, it say fa answer.txt, something like this. Okay, and that is how we set permission on Linux. So we create a text file here and you use the command touch followed by your name. So for example, let's say I use Xingyi. I will do something like this, Xingyi.txt. Okay, this is how I create a text file because you say create a file using your name. Okay, so this is correct. Second step, you check the permission first. So this one is the file that I just created. And then now we want to play around with this. Now, let's look at the questions, what the question want. The user is readable and writable. I think I better write this down. So user is readable and write. And then readable by group. So the group is readable. And then other cannot read and cannot write. So other is cannot read, cannot write, also is nothing. So nothing, I just do something like that. Okay, now we can start to set the permission. Start from the first one, user can read. So R is 1, write is 1, cannot execute because it's a text file. You cannot run a text file, remember? So it's 110. Now group is 1, can read, cannot write, cannot execute. And then here is cannot read, cannot write, cannot execute. I think it's exactly the same thing that what I showed you earlier. So this is the permission setting. To do this, you press calculator. So 110 is 6. And then 100 press calculator is 4. This one 000 press calculator is 0. Followed by the file name. So just now the file name that I have is xingyi.txt. So over here the command should be xingyi.txt, the file name. Okay. Now let's type this command inside here. 640 xingyi.txt. Oh, have to follow the capital here. txt. And then after you've done this, just check whether it is clearly reflecting what is right. So come here, xingyi.txt is correct. Read, can write, cannot execute. For the next 3 bit is for the group. Can read, cannot write, cannot execute. So correct. The last one is other. All cannot, so it's all dash, which is the permission setting that we want. So let's do this for question 4. Now this is the same thing, but instead of a file, we want to do this for a folder. So over here, let's create a folder with your name. I think we have already done this earlier, so we will do this again. So just to be clear, right now I'm in the home folder. I created a text file. Now I want to create a new folder with your name. So let's say I am creating a folder for car white. Okay, so I will type car white. Do ls, then you will see this is the new folder. ls-l, you will see all the permission setting here. And this is the new folder. And this, the default permission setting is the own user can read, write, access log. If you're in the same group, you can read, you can execute, but you cannot write. And it's the same for other. You can read, cannot write, you can execute. Now, let's see what the question wants. Set the permissions to only readable and writable by you. That means only the user can read and write. Okay, of course, not execute lah. I think can execute, but let's try. Because folder can execute one. Okay, now I show you the hard way, and then I'll show you an easy way. Okay, the hard way is what we have just learned. So what if I told you what you have just learned is actually the hard way? Okay, now let's try this. the permission setting right now is user can read and write. This one cannot, other cannot. Okay, so this is what we want to set. Okay, so here can read the folder, can write the folder, can run the folder or not, can run or not. To readable and writable. So if he doesn't say can run, we assume cannot log. Okay, then it's 110. Then this one is all 0, cannot read, cannot write, cannot execute, cannot read, cannot write, cannot execute. Only readable and writable, but yeah, I think that's correct. So this is the permission setting. Now I go to calculator, 110 is 6. So I come back here, it's time for us to write the command. So the command is again, change mode, ch mode, followed by 600, and the folder name. So just like I created car white, this is my folder name. Just like that, you can change the permission setting for the folder. Okay, so let me try this out on the terminal here. I hope it works. Followed by the folder name. So I ch mode 600, and the reason I get 600 is like how I showed you earlier after some calculations. And you should see that right now, this is a folder. Only Kawai can read and write. He cannot execute. And then the other all cannot. Yeah, and that is correct. If you can see something that is the same pattern as mine, that's correct. But I will just show you something like you don't have to really calculate. So for example, I have a text file. So this one is like at prohacker.txt. Okay. So I check the text file here. The permission setting is the user can read, write, cannot execute. The group can read, write, cannot execute. Can read, cannot write, cannot execute. Other can read, cannot write, cannot execute. So let's say I want to change the permission setting. I want to change this text file to be able to be executed. Of course, this is just an example. We are not supposed to execute a text file. Okay. Now, the way you do this is very simple. In fact, you don't have to count. You can just say use chmod user, because now I want to change this permission setting for the user, plus X means I want to add the permissions to execute this file. Pro hacker, the file name, .txt. Now you check here, you see right now I can already execute this file, and you can even see it become green color. Wow, so colorful. Because green color means you can run the file. Do you see that? So in fact, you don't even have to calculate one. For example, if I want to change the permission setting for this pro hacker file for the group, I want the group to be able to read, write, execute as well, because I like to share. I don't care if my group people can get it. So if I want to do that, very simple. I use the G, which stands for group, plus what you want to give. You want to give him the write permissions, execute permissions, followed by the file name. Now let's check this. You see, so I plus WX. See now, I already make the group to be able to read, write, execute. So in fact, it's that easy. If you hate Max, actually I hate Max, then this is the right way to do it. Okay. Okay. So first thing, click on the machine here, click on new. Do this together lah. Then give it any name. So you can just name it like XP server or something. Or you want to have a better name like X-Men or something. Okay. So I will just put XP maybe. Then over here, make sure you choose Microsoft Windows, and here you choose Windows XP 32-bit. It's not 64-bit. If you choose the 64-bit later, you will get an error message. So make sure it's 32-bit. Yeah, I know what. Okay, now this one is where you choose the memory. Make sure you choose 1 gig only. Click next. Now here, the hard disk one, choose create a new virtual disk. Okay, create. For the this type, the first one, VDI. So no changes here, click next. storage, dynamic allocate, next. This one don't change anything. This is where we create the VDI, just click create. Now next, you will see this one already created. So this is your server, XP2. Whatever the name you choose, this will be your server for your Lab2. Then go to setting. Now we have to make some changes here. And then you want to go to the storage. And here you will see this controller IDE. You should choose add hard disk. Okay, so I do this again. There's two icons here. Choose on the right hand, the rightmost icon to add a hard disk. And then here you should use add. Okay, down you point it to where you download. So I'm in here, I choose add, and then I will point it to this one, where you download from using the lab manual. Okay, then you click choose, then you will see this one here. Now, next thing, you see this XP2, you have to remove attachment. Okay, then you make sure there is only one bootable ISO here, VDI here, which is Windows XP, FTP, Telnet, something like that. Go to the network. This time we want to change the network setting from NAT, which is the default, change it to host only adapter. Press OK, and then now you can start your Windows XP machine. Okay, so guys, you're supposed to see something like this. Even like start it is also so fast because Windows XP ma. Okay, now you have two user account here. You use the first one. The second one need password one, so you use the first one. Click on it, and you will hear this sound. Hey, can you remember this sound? Wow, bring me back to 1990 when I was still a young boy, when I was still handsome. Wow, we can play a few games of pinball. Control button. So you already have one server running. Next one, you want to have your Kali as well. So this is the Kali that you used earlier for your section 1. But before you start, go to network, go setting network, change it to host only. Which means that your server and your Kali, which is a user, should all be host only adapter. If you have done this, start your Kali. Okay guys, so when you have both the server and your PC, so this Kali is your PC is running, first thing you want to do is to check what is their IP address. So on a Windows PC, the way I check is I have to open the command prompt. So I go to the start button here, I click on run, I type CMD, press open, then you will see the command prompt. Then here you just use the command to find out what is the IP. I think you should know the command because I did datacom with you. If you don't know the command, then I don't want to talk to you anymore. We are not friends anymore. So you do IP config, and then you see this is the server IP. So for my case, it's 119.8. Now, what you should do is, because I don't know about you, but for me, I always forget IP address. Even I just look at it here, I will forget in the next second. So I want to write this down. XP server, the IP is 192.168.119.8. Okay, yours might be different, so please check properly. Now the next thing is you want to know your own PC, what is your IP. So on the Linux, I open terminal and then I do ifconfig. Okay, so it's a bit different. Over here is ifconfig. On the Windows is ipconfig, and then you get to see this is the IP of your machines that you are using. So this is Kali, which is using, this is the IP 192.168.119.7. Okay, now you write this down, and the next thing is, of course, now I want to use this Kali as a user to go inside here, Windows XP server. So make sure they can talk to each other first. And how do we know whether they can talk? Use the ping command. So if you want to try this from the Kali, then you should ping it to the server, which is 192.168.119.8. Okay, now if you can see this message means that, yeah, they are talking to each other. Okay, guys, next thing you want to do, two things. First, we'll try to telnet first, and then we SSH. So to do telnet is very easy. I just use the telnet command, and then I put in the server IP address. So right now, what is the server IP? The server IP is 192.168.119.8. So 192.168.119.8, press enter. Yeah, if you see this one, means that you managed to find the telnet server. Now, the next thing to do is to log in, just as you log into your Gmail. So the login is UCCN1213. This is the username. The password is the same as the username, UCCN1213. Press enter, then you will see, welcome to Microsoft Telnet server. The first thing you see, this is a Microsoft. So if you are a hacker, the first thing you will think is, this is a Windows server. Because server can be Linux, can be a Mac server, can be a Windows server. But normally when you see Microsoft, your first guess is this is a Windows server. So you have to use Windows command. For example, I do dir, then I can see the directory, which means all the files and folders that I have on the server. Now, of course, if you do ls, you cannot, because ls is a Linux command. So the very first thing is, as a hacker, you should guess what is the OS. Then you need to use different command for different OS. You can play around like cd to the desktop. Yeah, you can, because cd is the same on Windows and for Linux. We use the same command to change the directory. Now, if you want to have more fun, you can come back later. But now, let's get out from the server. You type exit, you will get out from the server. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to connect to the same server, but this time you use SSH because I want it to be secure. For example, if you think people might hack you, you should use SSH. Okay, now if you think no people is going to hack you, you just use Telnet because Telnet is faster. Okay, so now SSH, normally we'll type the IP of the server. So my case is 1. Now, before this, don't press enter. For SSH, you have one extra thing to do, which is you have to type in the username at the IP address. So this is something extra, which is different from how you do a telnet. You need to specify the username to that server IP. All right. So press enter, and then just press yes, yes, and then just press type 1213, UCCN1213. You see, now I'm already inside the server, and if I type dir, I see the same thing. And in fact, if you really see this, you know that hey, this is the same thing. Just now I do telnet, I see this thing. Now I SSH, I also see the same thing. That is correct, because like I said, you are going back to the same server. Just the way you go is different. So telnet is not secure, you might be hacked. SSH is the secure version of a remote login. It's that simple. So that means I can also do what I should do earlier, but this time nobody can hack me in the middle. All right. You have to download a file from the server, from a computer. So the computer here means the Windows XP server, by your instructor to your computer. So to your computer means your Kali Linux or your own Windows PC. Over here, there is a file, I think it is named UCCN1213.txt. So this text file here is somewhere inside here. Now, your last challenge of today is you have to find a way to log inside to this server, download the file, and then show it in the answer that you already download the file. So first thing is you go to your Windows PC, you type FTP, then you put in the server IP address 192.168. For my one is 119.8. Okay, username is UCCN1213. Password is UCCN1213. You're in. So if you can see FTP with an arrow, right arrow, then yes, congratulations, you are already inside the same server, but this time you can download file. So first time you telnet, second time you SSH, now you FTP, because this time we really want to get a file. So If you do a dir, you can find the file is here, just right here, UCCN1213, and this is the file that I want to download. Now, next question, how do I download the file? I cannot right click download. You see, I highlight right click, cannot one. So I need a command. Now, the trick here is you press a question mark, enter, you can see all the available command for FTP. From here on, it's really easy. We just have to guess which one I should use to download. So in fact, it's not even a guess because it's so intuitive. You see this get command here. If you know English, then you know like get means try to get something. So this is the command you use to download. Next thing, I type get, followed by the file name 1213.txt, press enter, and you should see it's already received. Of course, this is really fast because this is just a text file. If you have to wait to download this file, then I pray for you. So to show it in your answer, you have to show the file. So how do I know where it is downloaded? Now this is the problem. It's downloaded, but where? So I also don't know where. You can just search for the file lah. Now you go to your Windows, search UCCN1213, open file location. Now here is here. So I think it is saved here because we didn't say where to save. So by default, it will be here. And yeah, this is your answer. If you double click, you get to see you got the marks. Yay! Although it's just 0.5 marks, but we still feel very happy because 0.5 plus 0.5 plus 0.5 is a lot. Okay,